Hi class, today I'm going to go over how to answer a sex-linked genetics word problem. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Just go ahead and follow along and take the notes as you go through this video, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to look at the very first sentence. And I notice that the first sentence says colorblindness is a sex-linked recessive trait. So why don't you go ahead and highlight this part right here where it says, or underline, sex-linked recessive trait, because that gives us a lot of good information, okay? So for example, it says sex-linked, so that should automatically tell you that if it says sex-linked, you need to use XX for your females, and you need to use XY for your males. It also says that it is a recessive trait, so that should automatically tell you that you need to use lowercase letters. And in this case, because we're dealing with color blindness, I'm going to go ahead and choose the letter B. So everybody that has color blindness is going to have a lowercase letter B. All right. So with that information in the first sentence, I'm going to go ahead and start setting up my T-charts in step one. I'm going to have a T-chart for females, and I'm just going to go ahead and set that up. I'm going to put my phenotypes on one side, and I'm going to put my genotypes on the other. I'm going to go ahead and make another table for males, and I'm just going to go ahead and set that up. I'm going to put my phenotypes on one side again and my genotypes on the other. And I'm going to go ahead and start filling out my T-chart for females. In this case, we are dealing with color blindness, and from the first sentence, we know that color blindness is a recessive trait. Therefore, if you are not colorblind, that must be dominant. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in my genotype for my female that is colorblind. So a female is going to be X lowercase b, X lowercase b. My female that is not colorblind is going to be X capital B, X capital B. And I have one more genotype that I need to include, which is going to be my female that is not colorblind, X capital B, but she can pass color blindness on to her children. So she is X lowercase b. And this genotype right here is known as a carrier. All right, so I'm done with all of my genotypes for my female, and I'm going to go ahead and fill it in for my male. So again, I know that we are dealing with, in this example, color blindness, and we know that color blindness is a recessive trait. So not being colorblind is a dominant trait. And the genotypes for my male, it's going to be X lowercase b y for my male that is colorblind, and X capital B y for my male that is not colorblind. Okay, notice that males do not have the carrier option. So males either have colorblindness or they do not have colorblindness. There's no such thing as a carrier for males when we're dealing with sex-linked genetic disorders. All right, so we're going to move on to step number 2, and this is the most important step, being able to correctly identify the genotypes for the parents. So I'm going to go ahead and go back up and read my next sentence, and the next sentence tells me that I am dealing with a female, and my female is not colorblind, but she has a father who is colorblind. So I'm just going to jot down a few notes so I don't get this question or make an error. So I have a female. She is not colorblind, but her father is colorblind. So I know she's not colorblind, so I'm going to go ahead and use X capital B. However, it does say that her father is colorblind. So her father's genotype would be X lowercase b y. And I know because she is female, she must have inherited this X lowercase b from her dad. So that is her other letter, X lowercase b, that she inherited from her dad. I'm going to go back up to the question or the statement here, and it says that she is going to have a child with a male who is not colorblind. He is not colorblind. So this male is not colorblind. So I know from looking at my T-chart the letters that I'm going to use for him is right here. X, capital B, Y, because he is not colorblind. Okay, I took my time on that step because I do not want to mess up step number 2, because step number 2 is one of the most important steps, making sure that you get the correct genotypes for your parents in the cross. Now, finally, I'm going to go ahead and move on to step 3, which is completing the Punnett square. And I'm just going to write out a Punnett square. I'm going to go ahead and put my female on the very top, X capital B, X lowercase b. And I'm going to put my male on the side, X capital B and Y. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill out my Punnett square. This letter is going to come down, X capital B. This is going to come over, X capital B. This letter is going to come down. This letter is going to come over, and I'm going to organize it so that the capital B is first. X capital B, X lowercase b. This letter is going to come down. This letter is going to come over. X capital B, Y. This letter is going to come down. This letter is going to come over. X lowercase b, Y. And now I'm completely done with my Punnett square, and I have all possible options for potential children. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to step number 4, actually answering the question. So the question states, what is the percent chance, that's what they're looking for, that this couple, that they will have a son that is colorblind. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. What is the percent chance that they will have a son that is colorblind? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to notice that up here I have a female, so I'm not going to include this box. I have a female up here, I'm not going to include this box. But down here I have my 2 male possible sons over here. And I notice this one is the one with color blindness. So 1 out of the 2 boxes for males is going to be colorblind, and 1 out of 2 equals 50%. So now I am totally 100% done. I've got my answer, and I took my time, so I know that I did not make any mistakes or errors. All right, I hope that was helpful. A lot of you guys have noticed that you are starting to get really, really good at the vocabulary, so most of you can just go ahead and skip and bypass step number 1, making those T-charts. But please keep in mind, step number 2 is the most important. You want to make sure that the genotypes for your parents are correct. Otherwise, you're going to mess up step 3 and 4 as a result of that. All right, so good luck, and I hope this was helpful.